I'm just waiting on some sort of confirmation from BGG that we're, like...
He's resizing the screen.
Ah, okay. Okay, apparently we're good.
Do this.
Alright, so welcome guys, I'm Dragondarch, and on a call with me I have Matrick, who's going to be covering most of the commentary for this game, because this game has virtually no downtime, and I actually need to focus more or less all the time, so he's going to cover like 95% of everything.
Yeah, there's about 9 seconds of total downtime.
But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and do my power cycle, and we'll get started.
There's power cycling here to try to get a manipulation at the beginning, which is going to get a spawn at the beginning of the game when he comes out of the first town. It's a 2-second time save, so it's worth the power cycle.
Okay, timing starts when I gain control, so I'll count you down. Three, two, one, go.
Alright, welcome to Crystalis. So, the primary objective of this game is going to be to gather 4 swords of the elements and stop the evil Dragon from raising the tower in the sky that will destroy the world. We're going to accomplish this by lying, cheating, and stealing wherever possible. We're going to be doing grinding in areas, as this game does have forced level requirements all over the place. And the optimization on the grinding, though, leads it to be where he's going to get the last kill on the last enemy he can right before he moves to the next level. So the grinding is extremely optimized, and there are very few actual grind sections. Most of the experience is going to be got, as you see here, where he's going to get it while he's on the move. You'll also notice that he doesn't mash his sword as he's going. And that's because the way the sword hitbox works in this game is that the sword actually originates in the center of his sprite and slowly goes out. So every time he hits the button, it actually resets the position of the sword. And so if you're mashing the button, the sword is actually going to be really short, and you're going to run straight into enemies a lot of times because they will not be hit by your sword. So he will be timing every one of his sword swings on enemies that he pushes like this, and they'll only be mashing on specific enemies.
Wow, beautiful slime spawn there.
Yeah. So here in Grass Valley, he went to talk to the wise man Zebu, who tells him that if he goes and wakes up the windmill guard, that he'll teach him some magic. You wake up the windmill guard by equipping an alarm flute and stabbing the windmill guard with the alarm flute. Why blow it when you can just stab him with it? It works all the same. So this windmill here, he gives you the key to open it. The windmill blows a cave open. So now he's going to go into a really short grind here. If everything works out, he's going to try to shoot into the HUD to get a slime that's down on the bridge. Got it. And now he's going to do the slime grind. The slime grind is going to take him up to 22 experience. And as soon as he hits the 22nd experience point, he's going to go right back through the field again, kill every single monster, and when he gets to the end, he'll be level 2 and ready to move on to the next area. He'll also get his first spell right before he enters into the vampire cave, which is the refresh spell, and the refresh spell drains your MP and heals you. I think it's a 4 HP for every 2 MP that it drains.
Yep.
And so going into the cave here, he's going to set a checkpoint there just in case. If you get poisoned in this game, he does have a safety antidote, but poison is very likely, as you can see how awkwardly some of these enemies move. They're not all programmed to run straight at you. Slimes are huge jerks, and they move randomly. And anything that is red colored essentially can poison, and there are red slimes all over in the next hallway. Got some despawns there. Despawns in this game are actually bad. Normally in a lot of speed games, you want to actually try to despawn as many enemies as possible, either for lag reduction or just to get things out of your way. In this game, we actually want as many enemies as we can to spawn because we want the experience for them. Okay, so he's at 27 experience. That allows him to do one quick cycle here, which will get him to 32. Then when he goes, actually he'll need 2 to get to 37. Gets 37 experience, and as soon as he gets there, he's going to go back into the cave one more time, and he's going to kill everything all the way up. And on the last wyvern, right before he gets to the boss, hit level 3, which is the level requirement for killing the vampire. He didn't get any despawns, which was actually really good, although that wyvern there bodied him a couple times. Huge jerk. So killing the last enemy gets him 17 MP per level, and it also gives him an increase to HP, armor, and defense. So the vampire here is completely random. Where he decides to spawn is up to him. He can spawn inside of you, although this was a super good vampire.
He was cooperative. that almost never happens.
No, he normally likes to go back and forth across the screen and be uncooperative. That was good. Okay, so finishing off the vampire cave there, you'll saw he blew that wall open with a level 2 wind shot. The balls for each one of the swords give you an ability to charge your sword to level 2, and then each one of the swords has a different thing it can do. The wind sword blows open rock walls, fire sword blows open ice walls, the water sword makes bridges over shallows in water, and the thunder sword can destroy iron walls. So dealing with the 3 idiots here, which is their official name, they were not entirely cooperative. He did take a couple of extra hits. He's low on MP right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the inn.
He's gonna trade this staff that he found in the grass, or statue that he found in the grass to Akahana, which is gonna get him a gas mask that's gonna be necessary to progress. And then he's gonna head right over to the tool shop here, and he's going to just jack this guy of 7 pairs of warp boots. There's a nice shop glitch in this game where if you're on the empty tile and you quickly switch over to an item that's next to it, you can buy that item for free because the game hasn't actually updated the price yet. And as a result of it, he's able to just buy multiple pairs of warp boots for 0 gold each. Okay, so if everything goes good here, he should end up at 80 experience going into the swamp. Perfect. So you'll notice that he equipped Refresh, the gas mask, and the warp boots there. Menuing in this game is a place where you can either lose a ton of time or gain a ton of time. So menus are something that's very important. So he wants to go into the menu as little as possible, and he wants to make sure that anytime that he does go into the menu, he hits as many things as he possibly can to minimize the amount of total menus, because it's just lost time you don't get back. He walked into the town of Oak there. He set himself a trigger so that he's able to warp back to that spot. And now it's off for a story element where we're going to go and battle against a monk named Stom. The objective here is going to be to push him up against the back wall. Now normally this takes about 3 to 4 tries to do this, but there's a super glitch where you can just teleport right away back to the first town and the game goes, "Hey, good job, you win." So we get the telepathy spell, which allows him to talk to people that can't speak the common language, which are these dwarves here in the town of Oak. And we're going to talk to an old woman who says, "Go find my son, he wandered off into the forest." So her kid was wandering around in this dangerous poison-filled swamp full of tomatoes and giant dandelions that spray at you. And we're going to take a pair of warp boots and shove it on this kid's head and teleport him back home. So, in reward for taking this kid back home, we get the insect flute, which summons a giant insect that wants to eat us. It's a good reward for saving this woman's kid. But you also get the Sword of Fire, which is more powerful than the Sword of Wind, and having the Fire Elemental, it allows him to hit some of the enemies he couldn't hit before, such as the mushrooms. Every enemy in this game has specific elements that it is aligned to and those that it's weak to, so you'll notice that he's going to have to switch between swords fairly regularly as we get further into the game, and that's because some enemies just can't be hurt by certain swords. We got a despawn there on the axe thrower. The axe throwers take 3 hits with a sword, and the mushrooms take 2.
Oh, that mushroom's not fine.
Oh yeah, that's 8 XP down. The mushrooms take 2 hits at level 3, but as soon as he hits level 4, the mushrooms are only going to take a single hit each. But it's not enough of a power upgrade to remove a hit off of the axe thrower, so they're still going to take 3 hits each. The grind here is going to try to... He wants to get to 202 experience before he heads back into the poison swamp to go for the boss. Having gotten those couple of despawns, though, he might not end up right there. Might end up being a little bit off. Yeah, what happened to Discord there? Discord's doing something weird, dude. I'm not sure if you can hear me properly, but everybody can hear you. It's just like static. I'm not sure what's going on. So going back into the poison swamp here, he's now able at level 4 to kill the tomatoes. And being able to kill the tomatoes, they're worth the same amount of experience as the mushrooms, so he wanted to kill just a couple of them. And he's going to go right over here and he's going to use the insect flute to summon that boss. The boss here, the giant insect, actually holds the ball of fire. And it's worth 50 experience, so he's at 236 right now. That'll get him up to 286, and that's gonna, put him within range. There's a couple of mushrooms on the way to the Mount Saber north or south, which will get him to level 5, which is what's required to damage everything on Mount Saber south. So he's gonna grab that real quick on the way down there. Taking the inn here is something that's normally not done, but he did take a lot of damage during the grind, so this is considered a safety inn. I would call that like a marathon strat because it's not actually done in the normal speedrun route. Okay, so Mount Saber South here. This place is full of nasty enemies. This is the first place that you're going to run into enemies with crappy hitboxes. There are some things in this game, particular enemies that have really bad hitboxes. The spiders in particular are some of the worst. Their hitbox is disjointed way down from where they're at. It's almost a full half tile below them. So if you think that you're aiming at a spider by going in the middle of it, you always want to aim towards the bottom. Because you're just going to, the spider will just go right through your sword slam. So inside of these caves here, the spiders are damageable by the Sword of Fire, but the brains and the wyverns are only damageable by the Sword of Wind. So this is the first place that he's going to have to constantly be switching back and forth between swords. And he does need to kill nearly every single enemy in here to get the amount of experience required, because in order to go to the next area, he has to be at level 6. So he did get both the respawns on the spiders, that's good. The wyverns are worth 10 experience, spiders are worth 8, and the brains are worth 8. So as he exits here, he's going to have to do 2 loops on the zombies. The zombies take 8 hits each, and they're worth 12 experience a pop. So they're the best enemies to grind on at this point. They do just take a lot of hits to kill. Fortunately, zombies, being zombies, have, stupid patterns. They just walk towards you. And so they're easy to control, and the loop actually goes pretty quickly. Like I say, he's going to do 2 full loops here. Should get him to right at about 430 experience. And that'll get him to the point where when he gets done with the cave and grabs the tornado bracelet, or not tornado bracelet, gets the teleport spell, then he'll be ready to go and get the last couple of enemies before he gets level 6. One thing I haven't talked about yet, you may have noticed, is that he's doing this stutter step here. That was a strat I came up with. I used to do it when I was a kid, and it just wasn't really thought about to do. But in testing it on the actual route itself, it turns out that using the stutter step comes out either slightly behind, slightly ahead, or at least even. And in some areas, it saves a lot of time because you're able to charge, while on the move. Now, we can't do it like the TAS. The TAS is able to mash at, I think it's 32 hertz, and that's just not possible to do, to be able to move at full speed. I'm just going to snake this medical herb here. The medical herb has no actual use as far as we are concerned, but it is required for a story thing, and this is the most convenient place to get it. You could buy one in a shop, but there's one right there, so there's no reason not to grab that. Okay, so continuing on through here, he's pausing there on the right wall to try to get all 3 of these wyverns to spawn, which they did. There should be 3 spiders to the left and then 1 up to the north if everything spawned properly. Let's see if he got the last one. He did! Perfect. Everything spawned. So again, the experience, like I said, is so it's so highly optimized that if we get 1 despawn places, it actually causes you to have to try to find an enemy in certain areas, and that's not exactly something that you want to do. So he actually has more experience than what he needs right now. He has 692. There are 2 mushrooms and 2 tomatoes, and a what is it called? 2 slimes on the way. So that would amount out to 42 experience. But he doesn't actually need, or 44 experience, but he doesn't need that much. He only needs 8. So he's just going to try to kill him one of these tomatoes on the way. It'll get his level, and then he can skip everything else. So heading up to Mount Saber North, getting the teleport spell actually took a trigger away on the south side of Mount Saber North. There are 2 actual story triggers that prevent you from going onto Mount Saber North, one on the Cordell Plains side, and one right here that he just walked in between. The one on the north side has an error in the basically the hitbox is split between the trigger there because they couldn't make it big enough for one. So it has 2 hitboxes, and there's just wide enough of a gap to be able to walk between, and so we can skip a huge story section here. It's one of the bigger skips in the game. Okay, so here on Mount Saber North, the soldiers are weak to the wind sword, the red brains are weak to the wind sword, and then there's plants, and I don't know how he didn't get poisoned there either one of those times he got hit. That was really lucky. But there's plants and golems that are only weak to fire sword. So here he is going to do a fair amount of grinding. He's going to be going to 1100 experience. These plants are worth 15 experience each, so he's getting 30 experience per cycle, and this goes pretty quick. So it does feel like you'd think it's a long grind, but it goes really quickly. The last 100 experience will be grabbed by the soldiers in the last corridor right before he gets to the boss, which is Kelbask. He got very, very lucky because just a couple days ago, he ran this for the Best in S marathon, and when he went here into Mount Saber North, those red brains that were there, he got poisoned by them and had to run all the way back to the inn at Nadare's in order to be able to clear the poison. I said before that poison is deadly, but I didn't explain why. So what poison does in this game is it does what poison does in like any other game, and it ticks down on your health. The main catch is that in this game, poison doesn't go away. It will tick down forever. The only ways to get rid of it are to use an antidote, cast the recover spell, or hit the inn. So it will just keep going all the way down. And getting poisoned at the beginning of a dungeon, until you get to a certain point in the game, you're going to die. You just can't survive it. Because you'll run out of MP too quick. It's also very easy for enemies to just, decide that they're gonna body you because either you missed time to swing or you're trying to go quickly and, they got in between your stabs. It does happen. So, trying to save as much MP as you can to be able to heal where necessary. It does make a difference. And if you got a poison ticking down on you, you're gonna lose out on that safety MP real quick. So 3 more cycles here is going to get him to the 1100 he needs. He's going to completely ignore every single enemy all along the way until he gets to the last corridor. And he's going to kill the last 4 enemies that he needs. The golems that are here are kind of stupid, and the reason for that is because when you hit them with your sword, it makes the sound like you're doing damage to them, but you're actually doing 0 damage a hit because at level 6, the sword and your actual attack power is the exact same value as the defense of the golem, and so you're doing 0 damage per swing. You actually can only kill them with charge shots. And while they are worth 35 experience apiece, which is the highest amount of experience you can get here on Mount Saber North, they take like 5 full level 2 charge shots to kill. So they're totally not worth it. Okay, so these soldiers right here, he's hurting them up like you can see. Now, something I haven't explained yet is when you use the rabbit boots, you jump up and down. The game has kind of this pseudo 3D effect. It makes it so that when you jump, that you're not able to be hit by enemies when they're on the ground. However, the game still tracks your position. So wherever your sword's at is where the sword's hitbox is. So he can jump and stab forward to the side, and the soldiers can't hit him, but he's able to stab them. So that's the strategy that he uses in order to be able to, safely kill those soldiers. Because their sword's hitbox is like twice as long as what it shows, and they're not very friendly. They hurt. Jeez. Uncooperative first soldier there. So making good use of those rabbit boots there. So here is the first major boss of the game. This is Kelbesk. He's one of Dragonia's 4 finest. And he's weak to the wind sword only. So he kind of acts like a linebacker. What he does is he just runs around, tries to body you, and occasionally stomps. This time he was very cooperative, and the fact that he didn't do a ton of running around, he stopped and stomped. And the projectiles didn't just appear right underneath him. So he actually got a pretty good Kelbesk there, especially considering that he only had 31 MP to be able to heal with. So, that's a dangerous situation. You may have noticed that he still doesn't have any armor. That's because we don't grab any armor in this game until we're about 2/3 of the way through it. He could grab some pretty good armor here in this town, but we choose not to because the shop is completely on the opposite side, and it's really not necessary if you're playing well. So now this is another major skip that's going to happen right here. He's going to set the checkpoint here at the Waterfall Cave. The Waterfall Cave houses the Sword of Water, but the path that gets you to the Sword of Water is actually blocked by a couple of statues, and normally there's a big story quest that involves you going back and forth between the Queen of Portoa and the Fortune Teller before you finally are given a Flute of Lime. And the Flute of Lime is what's normally needed to get past these statues. However, there's a glitch where when you talk to stationary statues like this, the game tries to push you back, completely opposite of the direction that you're holding on the controller. So by facing down and left and pushing into them, the game is actually forcing you up and left. So it's pushing you through the statues, and you can get through stationary enemies like that, or stationary NPCs like that, and it allows you to completely skip a ton of story stuff. So these Medusas here, they're only vulnerable to the Sword of Water. They're special for 2 reasons. One, their hitbox is gigantic. It's a huge square that is completely around the outside of them, and it's actually larger than what you see. It's bigger than where the snakes are on the outside of it, and it extends both up and down from where they're at. So it's just this giant square, and they're in a very narrow hallway. The other thing is that they stop and they shoot those white balls that you see, and those are actually stone shots. So if you get hit with one of those, you do get petrified. Now, petrify in this game is kind of special. You do get petrified, and the enemies are able to hit you. But if you happen to have your sword extended while the petrify is on, your sword's hitbox is active. And so the Medusas will tend to just run into your sword if you're facing the right direction, and they can sometimes kill themselves. Now what he's doing to combat these things is he's using the paralysis spell. The paralysis spell costs 4 MP, and it basically just stuns an enemy for, I want to say it's about 6 or 7 seconds. It's extremely powerful. And so it makes quick work of these things, because, they never stop moving, and they move in a really random pattern. They basically have a combination of the AI from like slimes, where they move randomly based on where the RNG's counter is at. and on enemies like zombies that never stop moving. So he tries to herd these up against the wall wherever possible, but at the same time he's also just going to fire off paralysis shots when they're in, you know, really irritating paths, because these Medusas will kill you real quick. They do about they do just a little bit more than a quarter of your health bar per hit, so just taking a couple of hits is deadly. So he's gonna get all the way to 1450 here, it looks like. Nope, he's gonna go to 1500, and then he's gonna teleport out. He's gonna stop here at Portoa, get his MP back. Now that he has the Sword of Water, there's an NPC that will now give him the Ball of Water. The Ball of Water, as I told you before, allows you to cross the shallows and waters by building an ice bridge over them. And that's necessary to get into 2 caves here. Both of the caves require you to be level 8 in order to damage anything. So that's why he's getting the requisite amount of experience right now in order to be able to damage everything there. He also, in between the next 2 caves, the enemies get a humongous jump in experience. Those Medusas were worth 50 experience each. That's the highest amount for any regular enemy up to this point. But the enemies in the next cave are 80 experience, 100 experience, or 120 experience. So there's a huge jump. So just going through the next 2 caves are going to get him all the experience that he needs in order to progress through into the next area, as far as the experience is concerned. This is one of the only places where the amount of experience that you are going for, it doesn't actually equate out to the right spot. You probably saw that spider there. He tried to fight it on the even playing field, and he swung right through the spider. So all the way through this cave here, he's going to have to be alternating back and forth between the wind sword and the fire sword. Every single enemy that's inside of this cave, with the exception of one particular enemy, is weak to the fire sword, and all the walls that are in here are rock walls. So that purple wyvern that's there is the only thing he can't kill with the fire sword, but all the walls require the wind sword, so he will be switching back and forth between them. He can actually kill the plants with the wind sword, but the mushrooms are only vulnerable to fire. And the fire sword, it does more damage than the wind sword. The wind sword has an attack power, I believe, of 1. And the fire sword, I think, has an attack power of 4. And so, you know, even though the plants are vulnerable to the Sword of Wind, they do take less hits with the Sword of Fire. So coming here through this cave gets you into this little grove, and the Crystalis plant is found inside of those bushes. And the Crystalis plant is used for something later in the game that gets you an item that's required to progress at the very end of the game. So it's not an optional item, but it actually is optional to get at this particular point. So he did equip the Sword of Water and the Ball of Water, because inside of here there's a small detour that he can make right now that allows him to save a menu by doing this right now, since he's going to need the Sword of Water to go into the next cave anyway. He's going to meet the Queen of Portoa, who actually turns out to be one of the 4 wise men. And her name is Asina, which is just a crappy translation of Athena. And then he's gonna, that medical herb that I talked about earlier, there's this poor friendly dolphin here who is, you know, in pain, and he really needs a medical herb, so we're gonna shove a medical herb in his pipe, and he's gonna give us a shell flute. It lets us call on him later, and he's gonna swim off. But rather than watch him walk away, we're gonna teleport out beforehand and save an animation of the dolphin swimming away. Grandra, you can't charge your sword while moving, so stutter stepping, the game only checks every 4 frames to see if you're not moving, and so by stutter stepping, you can charge your sword and still move at a, you know, an acceptable rate. It's faster than just standing still to charge your sword. So again, here in this cave, everything is going to be weak to the Sword of Fire, with the exception of the wyverns and the bats. But the bats are the same exact bats that were in the very beginning in the Vampire Cave. They're vulnerable to the Sword of Wind, but they're only worth 1 experience, so there's absolutely no reason to even bother with them. They don't do any damage to you. They just ping off of you when you hit them, and they're just there to be annoying and push you around. He's got 2 more wind walls. Okay, he's been poisoned. At this point in the game, poison is actually no longer an issue. He has enough health and he has enough mana to be able to survive. And this cave's not very long. And when he gets back to town, he can just go right into the inn, which is right inside of town. So he doesn't have to worry about curing this poison. As long as he doesn't take a bunch of extra damage from enemies hitting him, he's fine. So after he breaks this next wall, he'll be switching to the Sword of Water. The Sword of Water will it allows him to damage both the spiders and the dragons. Dragons are the same dragons that were on Mount Saber North, so they're only worth 10 experience, but they are in the way and they're free experience, so you may as well just kill them. Okay, grabbing the last rock wall here. Behind it is the fog lamp. The fog lamp is required in order for a guy to let you use his boat. And his boat lets you get out on the ocean. Once you get out on the ocean, then you can take a ride on the dolphin, and we can go to the next area where we have to do a short grind. Okay, so as I told you before, there's about 9 seconds of downtime. 4 of it was for the child that walks back into the house, and the other 5 of it are here on the boat. So there is absolutely no downtime throughout the rest of the run from this point on. And, you know, it's going to be pure action from here until the game gets beat. So he's got to make a pit stop off in Joel here. The town of Joel is actually a trigger in order to open the next area, which is Evil Spirit Island. If you try to go into Evil Spirit Island without going into Joel, then the game just tells you, no, you need to go visit Joel first. He did unequip the shell flute. Now the reason for that is because the shell flute, every time that you swing the sword with the shell flute on, the game is attempting to use it. So you end up with a frame of lag on every single one of these, swings. And with the number of times that you have to swing the sword while you're doing this grind here, it starts amounting up and costs you time. So there's no reason to have the shell flute equipped. It also provides slight input lag, which nobody cares about either. These jellyfish here are worth 160 experience each. He does have to go all the way to level 11. So basically, this grind here is... It seems like it, again, it sounds like a long time, but it's extremely optimized to the point where, you know, in order to go to the next area, because what we're doing here is there's a huge glitch that's coming up right after these, after we do this grind, and it's because this Evil Spirit Island here is actually a huge dungeon. It's a large cave system followed up by a big castle at the end of it. It culminates in the second one of Dragonia's finest 4. But we're going to completely skip that using a humongous glitch. The biggest glitch in the game and the biggest skip of the game. It's called Ghetto Flight, and I'll explain it a little bit more when we get there. Getting level 10 makes it so that he now has 1 less hit that's required to kill each one of these turtles, so that each one of the grinds is going to go even faster. He did get these jellyfish do poison, so he did need to take a quick menu there in order to get rid of poison. Hopefully he doesn't get it again, because every time you get poisoned, you lose time on the time box, or the text box. You lose time on menuing to get the recovery spell on, and you lose time for the menu animation of the game, plus the second text box that comes up that tells you, hey, your poison's clear. So he's actually going to stop 1 kill short of level 11, and that's because right where the Ghetto Flight trick is done, there's an octopus that spawns right next to it. And the octopus is worth 172 experience, so it's going to get him everything that he needs for, you know, to be able to go and do the next area. How many Burt units? Burt's worth 672 experience, so, yeah, that's worth... Each one of these loops is worth 960, so it's about, you know, 1.5 Burts. People that are talking about Burt is because Burt is actually the next grind spot. Burt's worth a ton of experience. He's a fairly easy kill once you learn how to deal with him, and you know, there's nothing even close to the amount of experience. So this octopus every now and then, oh wow, first try Ghetto Flight, Studley. Okay, so the way Ghetto Flight works there is that when you get off the dolphin, the game actually puts you on the water for a second as you're going out. If you hit the rabbit boots during that one frame that you're able to get that you're on that water, you could actually jump over the water, and the game thinks that because you were already on the water and you're jumping, that it should activate the flight spell. In reality, the game actually has a really robust system in place that prevents you from being able to fly normally. But in this particular case, it's the only way in which we're able. I've tried everything. We've tried tons of things to make this work, and can't find a way to get the game to fly any other way except for Ghetto Flight there. So he's going to make a quick detour here. He's going to go to the town of Amazonas, which is a town full of women. Now that he has the change spell allows him to change into 4 different people. One of them is the Monk Stom, one of them is a Dragonian soldier, one of them is this woman here, and the 4th one is Akahana, and each one of them has an actual use in the game. The Blizzard bracelet here is necessary for the next boss, and the Bow of Moon that was given by giving the Carissa plant to Arillis there is actually required to finish the game. So these soldiers are not very intelligent, and apparently they're blind too. So you can transform right into a Dragonian soldier right in front of them, and then they'll open the gate for you. Just don't talk to them again as soon as you've transformed back out of it, because they will suddenly be like, oh hey, what the hell? And they'll come after you and try to kill you. So he activated the town of Goa there, so he had a war point to come back to. This is Mount Chiron here. It's the purple mountain, and it's actually got a couple of fairly decent sized dungeons to them. One of them is where Bert is. It also contains the Sword of Thunder, and the other one contains the Bow of Sun. But in order to get the Bow of Sun, you are required to have the flight spell. The guards going into the town of Chiron here, they suck. They're not very good at their job because you can transform into Stom, which checks them out, and then immediately you can change back, and they're like, "Oh, okay, whatever, we'll let you go in." So he goes in, talks to Zebu. Zebu gives him the Key of Styx, which is where the Sword of Thunder is located. So going through Mount Hydra here, there's a couple of really irritating enemies, namely the Flail guys. The Flail guys do absurd damage. They can poison, and their flail is unique in that it hits you while you're on the ground and in the air. It's one of the only things in the game that has the ability to do that outside of flying enemies. It's like it's considered a flying enemy, and what they do is they swing it around while they move, and when they target you, they just throw it out in front of them. Alright, a puddle. These puddles are worth about 300 experience each. I think it's 320. And if you can get a few of them, you can eliminate a bird. I think it takes it's either 1 puddle or 4 puddles that's necessary in order to get rid of a bird. But the last puddle there was a jerk and decided on the last frame before you exited the screen that he was going to perform. So the barrier spell that he has, he got while he was on the Angry Sea after going behind the whirlpool and activating it. Barrier spell blocks all projectiles coming into you, and so he can get past those statues. So this little shuriken tossing mage here, this is Bert. So this little grind here, this is actually the longest grind of the game. He does have to get into level 12, and then he's going to stop at about 15,400 experience, or 15,007, I can't remember which it is. Bert's worth 672 experience, as I said, and there's no enemies that are even remotely close to the amount of experience that he gives you. It looks very simple what he's doing here, but actually this is one of the more irritating things to learn, because what you have to do is you have to jump from the screen above and jump down over the top of Bert in order to not get shot by him. You can't just walk down because his hitbox is there, and he's going to clock you right back into the other screen. The problem with this is that the timing for being able to get this jump, if you jump too early, then the game isn't going to register the jump. If you walk up too far when you turn around, and you jump like too far away from the edge of the screen, then you're going to end up getting shot twice by the shurikens, or worse, bodied by Bert. So Bert's body does a ton of damage. The shurikens do a little bit less. You don't want to touch Bert's body. So as I said before, he's going to stop at about 15,700 experience here. Granted, this is the longest grind in the game as far as experience is concerned, but you can tell it's not really actually that long of a grind. It's only because Bert's worth so much experience. So if this was a 100% run, there's actually an alternate side. When he came in through here after he got past the barrier statues, there was actually a fork. If you went from the to the right path, Bert's brother Bert is over there, and there's also the Psycho Shield is behind there, and the Psycho Shield requires the flight spell in order to be able to get, so it's not grabbed during in any percent run, but it is a required item for 100%, so he needs to get it for that. So 15,456 experience here is where he's stopping. He's going to run through the rest of the Cave of Sticks here. Hey, look at that, nice puddle. As he gets through here, there's 2 river sections that he is going to freeze over through this. I don't even know what kind of green sludge you want to call this, but there are bones and skulls floating in it. Apparently from other speedrunners that have died in this cave. When he gets into the next room, it's a super laggy room full of eyeballs, and there's also butterflies in there. The butterflies have the highest contact damage of almost anything in the game, so you don't want them to do it. Uh-oh, that's bad. Yeah, that's rough. That was a snipe from that eyeball there. Yeah, he wants nothing to do with these butterflies. Oh man, that butterfly came in for the tackle. Now, if he didn't have the really high-end armor, that butterfly would do like at least half of his health. So going back here to the city of Goa, he's going to get his MP back, and then he's going to go up to check, and he's going to run into an iron wall, so he can't actually go through it, even though he has the Sword of Thunder, because he doesn't have the Ball of Thunder yet. Now, in order to bypass that requirement, he's going to get a telepathic message here to go back to Chiron, because the Empire attacked them there. But they didn't kill anybody, they just decided to put everybody to sleep. So they let everybody take a nice long nap here, and as long as you don't talk to anybody, they don't die. And then when you run into the top, you run into Mado. Mado is the ninja cannonball. You know, he bounces around, you know, as a cannonball, and he comes out and shoots some shurikens at you. So just remind yourself that no matter how cool you think you are, you will never be as cool as Mado the ninja cannonball. So using the Blizzard Bracelet here makes short work of Mado. Trying to fight him without it is possible, but it's such an annoying thing. Okay, so going normally what the game would expect you to do at this point is go straight into the Fortress of Goa, since Mado drops the ball of thunder, which lets you destroy those iron walls. But there's actually a cave down here inside of the desert in this oasis, and it houses an item called the Power Ring. Now it's behind an iron wall, so you can get it right now. But it's actually kind of intended, because when you exit from the Fortress of Goa, oh man, we got bugs. But when you exit from the Fortress of Goa, it actually, the back door from there takes you right down, and it actually leads into this cave. So it's kind of intended for you to come here, grab the battle armor, and then fly right on down and grab the Power Ring. Because the Power Ring basically takes and breaks the entire next section of the game. Enemies normally have really high defense in there, so the rest of the Dragonia's Finest Four would actually be challenging fights. But with the Power Ring, you just body them. They just get destroyed. So grabbing the Power Ring here, this is basically going to be the item he's going to have equipped for the rest of the game. Then teleport back to Goa, and off we go. We're going to head right into the Fortress of Goa. Now in the Fortress of Goa, there is a refight with all three of the Dragonia's finest four that we have met so far. And then we actually get to meet the fourth one. Each one of them still retains their standard weaknesses that they had in the beginning of the game, but they've gained some new strats and abilities. Kelbesk gets a sword, and he still likes to be a linebacker. He doesn't stomp anymore. He actually will take the sword, sticks it out, and fires wind blasts at you. And Sabera, who is the one that we skipped on Evil Spirit Island, she gains a fire shield on top of the projectiles that she shoots. Mado gains Mach 20 speed, and Carmine is the final boss of this dungeon. So he needed to be level 13 here in order to be able to damage both Kelbesk and Sabera. This Devil Bat, it really wants some. Okay, so what he's hoping for here is for Kelbesk to take about 2 steps to the left and then just stop, which he gave a really good pattern. If he would have taken those 2 steps left instead of the 2 steps up, he might not have actually gotten to, run into Dragondark. After you clear every single one of the Dragonia's finest four, there's a wise man behind him who will completely refill your HP and MP. So you can just go balls out this section, not have to worry about health, not have to worry about mana, because you know you're going to get a refill. At the beginning of this screen, there is a flail guy that you hear go tweet tweet, and that is actually spawning in the whip of the flail guy, and that actually takes up an extra spawn slot. Now normally there are bugs here, the same bugs that were in the Oasis cave, and what they do is they fly around and they're really fast, and they crap out this paralyzed dust on you. And paralysis on you doesn't work like it does on enemies. It prevents you from charging your sword. And it's really annoying when you have one of these things constantly paralyzing you. Okay, so that flail guy that's there is really annoying. He's worthy of equipping paralysis for just by himself. Okay, so Sabera here has a nice little glitch. For some reason, she is the only one of Dragonia's finest four that when she spawns in, you're able to move around. So we can position ourselves right next to her, get the barrier spell ready to go, and as soon as she becomes active, she dies in just a couple of hits. I think she has 13 defense is what her actual defense value is normally. So if you don't have the power ring equipped, you hit her for like about 4 damage each swing or something like that. It's a really low value, and so it takes a lot more to kill her. It's actually better to kill her with level 3 shots. But having the power ring, she goes down in just a few swings. So we do have a grind here. He does need to get to level 14 before he can face off with Mado or Carmine. What that means is that he does need to kill these spiders, which are worth, I think it's 1,260 experience each. I always forget the exact value. It's got a despawn there. That sucks. I think it might be 1,280. Yeah, it's 1,280. That's what it is. And the spiders there's these 2 spiders here are just consistent spawns, and it's really easy to be able to, just go back and forth and get them. He does need to delay. The shot that the spider shot off there will take the other spider's spawn slot, so he needs to make sure he delays long enough in order for that to disappear and still give the spider enough time to spawn. Okay, so he's going to stop at about 28,000 experience, because he can get the rest of it on the way to Mado. Coming up after the spiders here is one of the most annoying parts of the entire game. It is the Hellway. The Hellway is a hallway that is full of invisible enemies that require level 3 charge shots in order to see before you can even damage them. And it's also got elevators over pits. The elevators suck because if you get hit by anything while you're on the elevator, it immediately drops you down below. And it's awful. It's a horrible room. And there had to be some major strat development just to find a way to get through this place. And using the level 3 fire sword charges here was what was come up with as the best strat. These guys can just nut hug right up against the edge if they want, and so you just can't get off the platform. Other times you'll dump your level 3 fire sword and it'll knock one of them right into you and it'll push you right down into the pit. They also can shoot out paralysis shots of their own, and like I said before, if you get hit by one of them, then it's going to send you right down into the pit and off you go. Okay, so clearing out all the wraiths there, he's going to re-equip himself with the Blizzard Bracelet and the Sword of Water, and it's off to Mado. As I said before, Mado 2 here gets Mach 20 speed. He can be killed in, ideally, 2 level 3 charge shots. I don't think that's going to happen. He was really uncooperative with that first shot. Okay, and he's down, and it's off to meet up with Asina. Okay, so here in the final section here, before Carmine, there's actually enemies that have really good experience, so he's going to want to try to kill as many of them as he can. God, this flail guy. The flail guys, they're worth, I think it's 1,600 experience each. There are still spiders here, and there are also skeletons that I think are worth about 1,400 each. And the skeletons are special because if you don't hit them with a paralysis spell, as soon as you hit the skeleton, it just falls apart. And the whole entire time that it's falling apart and coming back together, you actually can't damage it. So by hitting it with paralysis, it prevents it from falling apart like it does. And the skeletons are, they're easy to kill at that point. So here on this section, there are brown puddles that are on the ground. The brown puddles are tied with warlocks for having the highest XP value in the game at 1,920 experience. So if a if a puddle happens to coalesce, he wants to kill it every time. Carmine here gave him the perfect pattern. He has 2 attacks. He either shoots out balls that bounce around in that pattern like that, or he spawns a special projectile of the that turns you into a slime. It's actually, if you're standing next to him and just stabbing at him, when he casts off the slime spell, it goes through your barrier. It actually spawns inside of you. Oh baby, that puddle. And yeah, it actually spawns inside of you, and it will turn you into slime. The slime spell is really bad, because the only way to get rid of it is to either leave the screen, which is not possible to do in a boss fight, or use a Fruit of Repin. And so that's also something that you only have one of. Okay, so now as I told you before, here on Mount Hydra there were 2 dungeons. There was the Cave of Styx, which housed the Sword of Thunder, and then there's also the other side, which is just a cave system that houses the Bow of Sun. But the Bow of Sun required the flight spell in order to be able to get, which he just got from Kensu there at the end of Goa Fortress. So he's going to pick up the Bow of Sun here, which is required in the very final dungeon of the game just to get access. That eyeball tried. So essentially, while he's using paralysis on like all the enemies, it's really only for the flail guys, because flail guys are jerks. He's going to keep the Sword of Wind equipped here because there is another rock wall at the end of this hallway. And the eyeballs are worth like 200 and something experience or 300 experience. They're not really worth killing at this point. With requiring 40,000 experience in order to get the next level, it's really only worth killing enemies that are worth, high amounts of experience, and the eyeballs are not. Okay, so he's now done with all the side questing and all the backtracking. So he's going to go through, he's going to basically do his final grind, and then he's going to head off to the last few bosses of the game. So here in the desert, he went to the left before to go to the Oasis Cave. Now he's going to go to the right, and since he has the flight spell, he can fly over the top of those whirlpools that you saw in the sand, and he can get into here. He did get a despawn on the scorpions there. Scorpions are worth 1,440 experience, So he's going to be grinding off of those here for a little bit. When he was in Chiron, he did steal some money, and he bought a bunch of steal some armor, and he bought a bunch of magic rings. The magic rings are going to be used to great effect here in the last couple areas of the game. Anywhere else, there's inns that are close enough that it's fine to go ahead and use the inns, but there's nothing close here. The town of Sahara that we just went through is the closest one, and it's way out of the way. It's all the way on the far left side of town. It's not really worth going to. But a magic ring gives you a full amount of bar of magic. Since you're at maximum level, you have maximum MP, so it's going to get you all the way through. He wants to aim for somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I think it's 24,000 or 26,000 experience here he's going for. Might be 24,400. Then he's going to get the rest of the experience that he needs between the Great Pyramid and the Pyramid Basement. Okay, so due to the way that the Scorpion spawned, he ended up at 30k. That's fine. It just means he's going to have to grind less Warlocks later. There's a couple of Scorpions here he's going to go for. In the next area, there's going to be an Eyeball and a couple of Mummies he's going to go for. And then we're going to get our first meeting with Dragon. The big protagonist, Dragon. We've heard so much about him. Thanks there, Mummy. We're going to finally get to meet Dragon. So Dragon is a special boss here. What makes him really special is that he has no iframes, whereas every other boss in the game has iframes. Dragon does not. So every frame that your sword is inside of him, you're doing damage. So his 255 HP goes down like that. You're hitting him for about, I think it's 32 per frame or something like that. And he just drops like a stone. So he's at 41,000 health. If any of the puddles here in the desert spawn, oh well, that one was a little out of the way. But if any of them had spawned in front of him, he would have dropped down and immediately to kill it. Warlocks that are here in the end of this place are extremely dangerous. Not only do they do a ton of damage, but they also have that same slime spell that Carmine does. These two lion statues here, the only indication that you're supposed to use the Bow of Moon and the Bow of Sun here are the pictures of the sun and the moon over the top of their heads. So those are those two bows that were grabbed earlier in the game. So he's going to use the fly spell here to make sure that the Warlocks aren't going to body him, but they don't do anything in order for him to be able to stop the slime spell. So sadly, if he gets shot with it, he's in trouble. He's got to use a Fruit of Repin right away. Otherwise, the Warlocks can I think it's just a couple of hits, and he's done. Oh, there it was. He got Repin. And then even tried a second time. Wow, look at that, man. This Warlock fired off 4 shots. Okay, so he needs to kill all 3 of the last ones here in the hallway. And there it is, on the last possible enemy right before the final boss. He gets the last amount of experience that's necessary. In order to damage Dragon here, you do require the Sword of Thunder and the Power Ring. And the Bow of Truth is necessary to reveal his true form. So yeah, by taking damage there when he tackles you in the beginning, it's actually a minor manipulation to try to get him to open his chest right away and fire lasers off like this. Now the perfect pattern you could ask for would be if he immediately closed his chest, took a step off to the right or left, and then fired again. Instead, he got basically the second best pattern, where he goes and just decides, okay, well, I'm just going to run right down and do it. So he got the 2 cycle there on Dragon, and now that Dragon is dead, he's cleared out everything that's necessary in order to go to the tower at the end, where he's going to stop the giant tower from destroying the world. Now, here on the tower, now we're going to make use of the level 3 Storm Bracelet, or the Lag Storm as we like to call it. The Lag Storm, it costs 40 MP every time that you cast it, but it's good enough to completely clear out, you know, most screens worth of enemies. Wow, that little brown robot was having none of it. Okay, so the white robots that come out after you kill all the brown robots on the floor, you can't actually kill them with a complete Lag Storm. It does require one additional shot from the Sword of Thunder, so you use the level 2 shot to quickly clear them out because it fires a spread of 7 shots. The tower has 3 floors. Each one of the floors is going to have 3 of the brown robots on it, and anywhere from 2 to 3 doors worth of the white robots. The second floor has 3 doors worth of white robots. The first and third floors have 2 doors. Okay, so he's going to stop right by this door here. What he's going to do is he's going to stand in the doorway and just stab those down. Now, this is only a possible strat that happens when you're already like right in front of the door when they come. These white robots, they move super fast. They don't care. They have no AI that tells them to go towards you at all. They just move anywhere that they want. And they also shoot projectiles, and the projectiles really hurt. So you don't want to mess around with the white robots if you can avoid it. And by using the Lag Storm is the best way to do it. So he has exactly enough MP for 2 more Lag Storms. I think he has 1 more Magic Ring. If not, this is going to be a very interesting Dynafight. Oh, he's got 2. Never mind, we're good. Okay, so it's time to get the namesake of the game. By handing Mezia here all 4 of the swords. Oh, by the way, there's a heroine in this game, but we completely skipped her completely because we really don't care about the story. We only care about the action. So she takes all 4 of the swords together and combines them into the Crystalis, which is the only thing that can stop the tower. Okay, so the final boss here is Dyna. You just run up to its face, or run up right under the heart, blast it a few times, and time is coming up here in just a second. Time. And that actually has a really good track to it, but we only get to hear about 3 seconds of it because, you know, it's over that fast. I would have given you more heads up on time, but it kind of just happens. So just to give you guys an idea, that's about a 1-hour run. That is superb. Nobody else has come even close to that time yet. I have a 104. 104.04 is my time, or 104.14, I can't even remember offhand. Dragondarch's time is a 58.14, and he's the only person that's gotten a sub-hour. In fact, he's gotten exactly 2 sub-hours on this game. And it's very difficult to do. Get your Jeff Peters ready. Here he comes. Jeff Peters! Everybody loves a good Jeff Peters. Alright, well, great run, guy. from Dragondark there. That was a really good run. He didn't really have any major foobars. And appreciate you having me for commentary here. I hope you guys all enjoyed everything. And I'm not really sure what's up next, but that'll do it for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Crystalis run. Dragondarch, excellent commentary.